welcome back to another episode of the Inside Lines podcast. I'm your host, Atoya Burleson.
And I am Tia Avril.
Coming up a bit later in the show, we'll be chatting with owner and founder of Rough Tumble Pub, Jen Barnes. We'll also be getting into our hot take this week, where we will be discussing Ja Morant's latest off-the-field drama. But first, Tia, how was your weekend?
Oh, my weekend was good. Busy as always. I feel like that is a record that's on repeat.
Yeah.
But Cliff and I celebrated our 9th year anniversary this past week.
My
and
gosh, that's
I know, I'm like, I can't believe it's been 9 years.
I remember that day vividly because I missed it because my husband broke his arm. I can't believe that's 9 years ago, Tia.
It's been 9 years. I know.
Okay, so what'd y'all do? How'd y'all celebrate?
So it was on a Wednesday, and we had just some meetings in the morning, but then we just went out. We had lunch, and then we did. Have you seen the TikToks and the reels of the hot tub boats?
I have not.
So it's literally it's a hot tub that's a boat, and it has like it's electric, and it's like a little joystick situation. So they just send you out or whatever. And so we were on South Lake Union in the middle of the day in this hot tub boat, which was perfect because it was warm in Seattle and sunny. But it's kind of cool on the water. So having a little hot tub situation was nice. I was like, okay, we can do this.
Wait, so y'all was floating around on a lake in a hot tub, living your best life.
Yep.
So they gave you like drinks and food, or y'all just like, how does it work?
So you bring stuff, right? So they say no drinking or smoking or whatever. I did have my little canned cocktail that I went ahead and put at the bottom of the bag with my little snacks. So I can have a look, because who just gets in a hot tub without a drink?
Yeah, you have to have a drink, period.
My little canned cocktail. So it was good, I'm like, when I think back in general, just 9 years, I'm like, oh, a few times we might didn't make it, but we made it.
But you made it.
But we made it.
Look at God.
What about you? How was your weekend?
Weekend was good. Nate and I went to the Bahamas for Jarek Dieter's Turn 2 Foundation charity event. So Nate did some golfing, and while he golfed, I played. So I got a massage. One day I went to the pool. All the girls went out on the water. The last day we went out on a yacht. Amber Sabathia, she's like, I got a boat, y'all, come on. So we went and hung out on the boat. I had a really good time. Like, it was really well-needed Mother's Day time with a bunch of women that also left their kids at home, and they were like, okay, I'm going to do this. So it was a lot of firsts for many of us, leaving our kids and going away for Mother's Day. But I must say, I did come back on Sunday. My flight got in about 3:30, 3:45, and I got to spend the second half of the day with my babies, and they did good. I walked in, they had flowers and gifts, and I was proud of them. I was like, y'all growing on up. Look at God. Listen,
they celebrating
I was happy.
Mama. You know what? I will say, okay, so I like the idea of, I agree that you and Nate went away, but just like moms going away and like getting that break that we talk about all the time, leading up to Mother's Day.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. And it's nice being on the East Coast where you can literally
it was a hop skip. It really was. And even kept coming back, like I didn't have to cook. Like Nate cooked. He told the boys to go get the food. So the boys went grocery shopping. Nice. So when I came back and they had the flowers and all that, then Big Nate got in the kitchen and cooked it up. And he made homemade meatballs, salmon. He had this cabbage. He did so well. Like, even after golfing all weekend, I didn't think that was going to happen because, let me tell you, with them NFL injuries, he was feeling everything. But he went in the kitchen and did his thing. And I was like, thank you so much. It was a great weekend. I cannot complain.
All right, Burleson gang.
All right, enough about that, y'all. Let's get into this week's hot take. All right, it's time for this week's hot take, Tia. What we got?
Okay, this week in hot takes, we are talking Ja Morant. Now, Morant has been suspended again by the Memphis Grizzlies following a video on social media following the star guard holding a gun. Goodness gracious. This happened, of course, Saturday night. And as I stated, this is the second incident involving Ja and his displaying of a gun on social media. The last one, of course, happened in March, which he was suspended then as well.
Yes.
So, okay, Atoya. So we both got boys, and your boy is getting ready to fly the nest. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think about this latest situation?
I think, well, first of all, Ja Morant, and I'm not giving him any passes. He's very young. Okay. And he's in the NBA. And it's very interesting because when I think about him, I think about a lot of teenage young men, and they think being a rapper, brandishing guns, living that life is cool. But what they don't realize and understand is all of the rappers that are doing those things to get out of the hood, to move on with life and do better things with their lives. So here you are. You've already made it. You're in the NBA and you going backwards trying to do what they're doing only because they're trying to get out. And it's like, stop and think about what impact you're having, not only on your legacy as an NBA player, but like even like on kids. Like, you're showing them that stuff like that is what matters more than anything. And that's not what you want in the long term. And I don't want to put it on the friend, because as soon as the friend saw him put that gun up, he did try to put the phone down real quick. But you do have to be careful about the company you keep. And not to say that Ja Morant's not a grown man and his friend can't make him not carry a gun. But I hope I have friends around me that be like, girl, don't do that. Let's not do that. That's not what we're trying to do. Let's be better. Let's be better in life, right? You have to be careful of the company you keep. And it doesn't mean you have to get rid of your friends, but let's be around friends that pull us up, that make us better. And most importantly, you have to want that for yourself. And so I was very disappointed in seeing that again, because a lot of kids look up to him. Everybody knows who he is. And, you know, for me, whenever this stuff happens, I'm talking to my boys. I'm like, do you see that? Do you see why I tell you what I tell you? You cannot do it. And they're like, I know, Mom. But it's true. Like, you have to have people in your life that make you better. And what you're standing for and the things that you think are cool are not cool. And I'm going to say this, stay off of live. Just take that off. Anybody around you on your camera, no one's allowed to use live ever, period. All right. What about you, Tia? Tell me your thoughts.
Okay. So this is multifaceted for me, but and it's not, and actually I'm going to go against the grain just a little bit on one of these points, but I think what's more annoying for me in this situation is that this is his second incident. Now, going back to March, and he was displaying a gun, etc. To your point, I do think it is cultural. He's only 23 years old, so he's only so far removed from even his environment, right? Like from how he grew up and stuff like that. So you getting that out of your system is not something that happens overnight, right?
Yep.
And so I wasn't upset with him in March. It was one of those, okay, well, you don't have to do that anymore. And like those types of things don't make you cool. So it was very like gracious and forgiving and things like that. And I'm still gracious and forgiving, whatever the case may be. But what is more annoying with this situation is that this is the second time and it ain't even been 6 months. So it's like you seen like endorsements get put on hold, commercials get put on hold / pulled. Like you've seen the consequences of doing this. And when you actually had the opportunity to like not do it, why aren't you taking advantage of it? Right.
Right. Absolutely.
And I know you brought up the notion of him being like an influence on kids. Honestly, when people grow up and they want to be NBA players, NFL players in the entertainment industry and stuff like that, they don't necessarily want to be the person that the youth look up to, right? And so I don't hold that against him, because he's just like, yo, I'm still living. I'm 23. He probably in his head don't even think that he is an influence of any sort, because he's only 23. He like, I really just started living life, right? Mm-hmm. But the notion of the whole friend thing, and you tell me if this happened to you, but I feel like when you start making a certain amount of money, and you become the source of income for several people, or the source of entertainment, fun, and things of that nature, people don't always feel like they can say anything to you, right? Like, people look at you like now you are the leader of said group. So maybe he does have the friends that are like, I can't, like, shoot, I'm trying to have fun. I ain't gonna say nothing. I ain't gonna mess it up.
I ain't messing up my coins.
And then after so long of people treating you like that, you start to believe it too, right? So now can't nobody say nothing to you. Even your mama. Like, your mama can't correct you sometimes, not all the times. People that were raised, I ain't gonna say people that are raised right, because you never know how people do this and it ain't the parents' fault kind of thing. But sometimes they get in positions where people can't say anything to them. Right. Okay. So it really has to be on their own cognizant, or other people like Jalen Rose talking to him like, yo, I done been there, walked that path. You don't want to mess this bread up. It's only but for a limited amount of time. Right.
Girl.
And so that's what I wish. I want to see more of that. Like, I want to see more of the OGs, the vets, the in which the NBA PA community is pretty good. They're pretty close. So I want to see more of them speaking into Ja.
Yeah, I would agree with that. But, you know, I just don't understand why they need to go on live.
I agree.
Like, why are you on live?
Yes.
Because here's the deal. Even if you didn't know he was going to pull that gun up, even if he thought you was on a video and not on live, even if you didn't know, as his friend, you saw that gun sitting there. It's not like Ja went and dug in something or went in the glove. It was right there. He raised it straight up. You knew.
But even then, Ja's just on a different level. Like, you don't just hop on live. Okay, you don't just hop on live.
You cannot be on live. Stay off live, because you can't edit it. You can't take it back. It is what it is. Look, and that is the problem. Stay off. You need to just is there a way to delete that? You can't even delete that from your Instagram, but
you can't.
Do something. Figure it out. Like, tell anybody around you. No one. I got
a quick question for you. I got a quick question for you, and I saw it on Twitter. So Van Lathan from Rachel and Van Higher Learning Podcast. So he was on Twitter and he posed the question. I was like, So if Ja, let's say he was a gun enthusiast, and you know how you see some of those family photos of people holding their gun. Yeah.
Yes, holding them up.
Do you think the perception of Ja would be different if he was more, I guess, intentional with his display of a weapon? Like those family photos.
Well, you know, it's funny you say that, because there are people that are coming out saying he didn't do anything wrong. He didn't break any laws. You know, so.
No, I didn't see that. Okay, I didn't see that.
Yes. So there's people that are really on his side. Like, there's a lot of people that carry guns. There's a lot of people that blah, blah, blah. I get that. But to your point, Tia, we all know he ain't pro NRA. We all know.
He got all these weapons.
Listen, we all know he ain't, stand your ground. Ja is just out there trying to act like he's in rap videos and do like the rappers do. And it's like, I get it. You're only 23, but there comes a level of responsibility, even if you don't want it. It just is. Like, people are buying your jerseys. There comes a level of responsibility that you may not necessarily want, but it comes with the money, right? It comes with the money. There's a level of responsibility. And if you don't want to be that guy, don't accept the money. Move on. Do something else. Like you said, go be pro NRA. They like to pay people too. Let's be clear. But if you are representing the NBA, you cannot brandish guns.
If you are representing the NBA, then there are rules to how you want to behave, and that should be
absolutely.
But I want y'all let me know what y'all think. Do y'all think if Ja was a gun enthusiast and he was just posing with the weapon instead of like waving it or brandishing it in that manner? Y'all let me know what y'all think. Like, do y'all think people would have the same take on Ja? Do you think he would be suspended? Leave us a voicemail or chime in on social media. Speakpipe.com/Inside Lines or Inside Lines Podcast on Instagram.
All right, y'all. That's it for this week's Hot Take. Coming up next, our chat with Jen Barnes. On the show today, we have the owner, founder, and creator behind Rough Tumble Pub. She is a lifelong athlete, tireless fan, and entrepreneur. She is also a senior executive with 25 years experience and more. Please welcome to the show, Jen Barnes. Hi.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, well,
Thank you for coming on. Firstly,
Absolutely.
Congratulations to you on opening up an amazing, it's called Rough Tumble Pub in the heart of Seattle. We think, first of all, being an athlete, I'm like, let's go. Because we didn't have this back in my day. Talk about where this dream and idea came from.
I mean, honestly, I couldn't believe that we couldn't watch women's sports at a pub. You know, it's a real problem. Programming of women's sports is you know, sort of the main issue. It's difficult to, you know, when you turn on the news or the sports channel, it's rarely women's sports. Right. And I love the experience of watching sports with other people, whether it's men's or women's sports. Yeah. And it's not something that you can really do with women's sports. And I particularly love watching the Reign play, our women's team here, soccer team. And I just decided it was time to do something, and I decided to affect some change and make it possible for everyone to be able to watch women's sports together.
So I came across a post about, I think it's called like Seattle Defined or Seattle Refined or something. It's like an Instagram account that has all of these cool Seattle places and events and stuff that take place. And I saw it, I was like, oh, I am so there. So how has like the community received having a pub like this?
Very warmly. We're busy every day. It's great. We have tons of regulars, which is really neat. We've got, you know, all the people from all the sports teams around here come in too. I mean, when you think about it, a place like this has not existed. And so it's just as fun for professional sports athletes to come in and have this experience of being able to watch their own heroines, as it is for us to be able to just honestly watch equality on the screens. And I think that's really where it comes in.
Yeah, I was thinking about NCAA women's basketball this year and how big it was.
God. Yeah.
Talk about having that in your pub and how big it was there.
We were absolutely packed. I'm still recovering, frankly. We were packed. I mean, it was so cool to have the super regionals here in Seattle, and you know, that just like really amped it up, right?
Yeah. Did you get to catch any of the games? Like going?
Yeah, I went to all but two, which was it was so great. It was such a wonderful experience to have that vibe. And it was really cool too, because you'd have a lot of the family members and fans and athletes coming through during those several days. And pretty soon, by the end of, you know, the first game I went to, I was the only one wearing a Rough and Tumble hoodie. By the end of it, you'd see these Rough and Tumble hoodies all over. It was really cool. So yeah, it was a lot. So our capacity here is, it's about 220 to 250 max. And we hit it every game. So
that's awesome.
It was standing room only. It was great. Yeah.
How did you come up with that name, Rough and Tumble?
Oh, it was really cool. So I was a tomboy as a girl. You know, I loved my dolls and makeup and all that stuff just as much as I loved climbing trees and chopping wood and making forts. And so I really wanted to bring that kind of feeling into the name and express that, like, you know, black dresses and lipstick and are just as fun as being an athlete, and they can all go together. But when we were doing research for the name, we came across something a story that I really love. There's a team in England from the early 1900s, a women's soccer team, and they became one of the best soccer teams in the world during the war when the guys were off fighting. You know, they were back creating the sports environment for everyone, and the fun and entertainment. And they sold out stadiums at numbers that we've only started to see get beat in the last 10 years or so. But when the guys came back from the war, the football governing body over in England outlawed women from playing soccer again for 50 years. It was not allowed. Yeah. But these women who are just incredible athletes kind of were like, I can't even imagine being told I couldn't continue to play, right? And they would break into what were now the men's stadiums and continue to play. And they got nicknamed the Rough Girls.
Oh, because they were breaking in and going against the grain.
Going against the grain. And I just thought that is such a great thing to own, that grit and that gumption. And so I kind of put those two things together.
Yeah. What sport did you play growing up?
I was a rower.
Oh, okay.
I was a rower. I did a little softball when I was, little league, and I did some track, but rowing was my sport.
And how did you get into rowing? Because it's not like you can walk down the street and you see people, that is something that someone has to either approach you about, or you hear about, specifically, you have to go, search it out.
Yeah. A friend of my mom's when I was growing up was a rower at Princeton and had been in the nationals, youth nationals, and I think, Olympic trials, something like that. And I always thought it was really cool. And I grew up over on Bainbridge, but when we moved to the city, rowing was available at Green Lake, and we lived in North Seattle. And so I asked Mom if I could do that, and that was the end of that. I started rowing when I was about 13.
You know what? Actually, rowing is pretty popular out here in Seattle. So that I came from the Midwest, not something that is common, but so many of my kids, their teachers were former rowers. Like one of his teachers has an Olympic gold medal for rowing, and she's like, she still gets up at 3-4 in the morning and get on the lake, and so it's a sport that you can do for an extended period of time.
It is. It's it's a lower impact sport, which I think is part of why. And we are surrounded by so much water here in Seattle, and good temperatures. So I know in other parts of the country where it's freezing in the middle of winter, it makes it a lot harder. But as a rower here in the Northwest, we only really had about 6 weeks off every year. So it was a year-round sport. Yeah. And once you you feel that swing and this glide on the water, it's a little addictive. It's hard to let it go.
That makes sense. So you still do it, is what you're saying?
I haven't done it in a little while, but it's funny. I've been a little busy opening this place, but now I'm like, I have a little time. I'm going to get back out on the water for sure.
Nice. So tell us about your career path prior to opening up Rough Tumble.
Sure. Well, my very first job was actually at my parents' business. They owned a food industry business when I was growing up. So I started working there when I was about 6, because family business, right?
Yeah.
And then my first business that I owned, if you will, was also around the same age. I owned a chive business. Literally grew chives and sold them to all the restaurants and grocers.
Wait, how did that happen?
I know, right?
Were your parents like, you're going to get a job, you're going to start your own business, or did you just love it?
I really enjoy working, and I mean, clearly that entrepreneurial spirit has always been there. Absolutely. So it was all my idea. I asked my parents if they could help me till some soil and plant these chive plants. And then I created a pricing plan and went and sold it, that was just me. Yeah. No, I've always been like that. So I was in the food industry for quite a while, through my teens, and then went into corporate, and I've been in a bunch of different industries over the years. I'm kind of industry agnostic, other than I really like to to be part of an industry sector that feels like I'm making a difference or that I'm doing something good. But other than that, I kind of like hopping around a little bit.
Yeah.
And I purposefully chose to go into a bunch of different verticals. So I've been in the finance vertical, the human resources people vertical, the marketing, business development verticals, and gained experience across all of those, and then brought those together to bear on COO and CEO type roles. And that kind of all culminated in being able to do this, which is just such a joy every day.
Was there one that you did and you were like, yeah, won't be staying here long, that you just were like, that's not my deal?
Sales, honestly, like I enjoy the process of convincing people that this is a really good idea, whatever it is, right? But I don't really like pushing people into something that isn't necessarily where they want to be.
Yeah.
So I think you can use marketing tactics and not be in sales. I would say that's probably the one that I enjoyed the least.
Yeah.
Like, no, thank you.
Yeah.
So I have a question, because I know like going into the restaurant industry, like it's extremely difficult, one, to even open up in the space, but then to actually have the longevity. I know you all recently opened and stuff, but what challenges and things have you faced so far that you were like, oh, I didn't anticipate that?
So far they've been relatively limited. Thank goodness. But I would say the people aspect is the most interesting one. A restaurant is so, it leans so heavily on a lot of different individuals, whether it's in the back of house for kitchen, the food has to be prepared. It has to be cooked. It has to be turned out. And we have really good food here. And then you've got servers and you've got...
Pat myself on the back because we have a good chef.
Yeah, exactly. So, if one person is sick or if somebody, gets a better job or, has an offer elsewhere, it's just kind of this constant churn. And I know that has adjusted a lot since COVID. And so I think just figuring out sort of the chemistry on that has probably been one of the more interesting challenges. And I think we're doing pretty well on it so far.
So more so like the people management piece?
Yeah, I love managing people. It's less than people management, and it's more how do we create the space where people are fed and like in their soul here at this particular place and not needing to move to yet another restaurant. Yeah. There's a lot of shifting and moving around that in the restaurant industry from a personnel standpoint that's different than other industries I've worked in.
When you talk about being female driven, and your idea was like, I want women on the TV. I want when people come in, male or female, they're going to see women on the TV. How was that as far as when you first put it out there? Did people think that it was a women's only bar in the sense of like who can come in?
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. And I actually spent an inordinate amount of time in the branding process to really circumvent that. And because of course it's going to attract women, but I also really wanted to, my whole idea was around equality. And I would say on average, if you are here on any given day, there's about 50% men, 50% women. And of course all the stuff in between as well. But, that was really, really important to me because I think most of the men in my life are very respectful of women's spaces. And I knew that especially good men would be like, am I welcome here? I don't want to invade a space that is intended as a safe space for women.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to make sure that invitation stood out as being a space for everyone. And so far it's working.
That's great.
But yes, absolutely. And it's something that just in the verbiage and the way we describe the pub and is something that I've worked really hard to make sure showed with as few words as possible and just the brand that it was a space for everyone.
Now being in I'm going to hit my air quotes here, sports bar like realm industry, do you feel like other people, because it's so male dominated, right? Do you feel like you've been welcome even from your peers?
Absolutely. I think what's interesting is when you look at what some of the other sports pubs and sports bars around, I think most of those are owned by men. Most of them are run by men. And I think they've all been kind of like shocked, if anything, that this was such a good idea. But certainly super welcoming. Absolutely.
Okay, so here's a question for me. I think about, being an athlete and all of the hard work that you put in, right? And then you think about you shifted into, or not really shifted because you were already doing it, but you're in this realm of the restaurant business of opening a pub and doing all, just grinding, doing this hard work. So I think about the parallels. What would you say are the biggest similarities between what you did as an athlete versus what you're doing right now in the restaurant industry?
It's a great question. It's actually something that I've thought about. I think as an athlete, you have to push yourself further than you think you can go, and you're always challenged to reach a little farther, push a little harder, and it's that I can do this, and I will do it. Thing that I know I learned as an athlete, that you can do anything, right?
Yeah.
And so I would say that on those hard days when I've put in 22 hours, I'm not kidding. During March Madness, there was a day when I walked something like 18 miles on the floor here, just like
back and
18
forth.
miles. Yeah, in a day. It was crazy. So yeah, I think I would also say that responsibility in leadership that a lot of athletes carry is something that I use every single day here.
Do you have what's your family structure? Like, do you have kids? How does it work?
I have two bonus kids. They're both in college, and I have an incredible partner. He's the most supportive human being that I could ever imagine having, and has just been such not just such a support, but an uplifter. He's really just been sort of the wind beneath my wings on many a day here. So,
and you need that because, like you said,
you really do.
22-hour days. Like I get a little TLC.
They're not all like that, but yeah,
that is extreme.
They're not all like that, but he's and on those days when you're just so tired and you feel tapped out. He's the person you can cry to and gives you a hug and says, you got this. And shows up to support me again tomorrow. And it's wonderful. Yeah.
Shout out to supportive partners. It makes a big difference.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Absolutely.
It does.
Okay. So I know I asked about a tough challenge or something that you experienced, but what would you say has been like the best advice that you've received so far at least on this part of your journey?
The best advice. Listen to your gut instinct. I mean, and it's something that I repeat out now, because nobody thought this was a good idea except for me and my partner who supported me. But everybody was like, oh, going into the restaurant industry post-COVID, that's not smart. Who watches women's sports? That's not smart. This is such a stretch. Yeah. And I had some really incredible women advisors who thought it was awesome and just said, go for it. If you think you can do it, then do it.
I love that.
Believe in your gut instinct. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to talk to you about Seattle sports because I think about when I lived there, we were kind of on the side. We were in Seattle. My husband played there 4 years before the Super Bowl, right? Before there was the big Super Bowl. But I think about the diehard people in Seattle, and they know Seattle sports from back in the day. Tell us your favorite teams and our players from back in the day that you really looked up to.
Back in the day, the M's. I love the Mariners.
Yeah.
I think I remember watching them back in the day was the Kingdom. If you really want to go back that far.
That's right.
Yeah. back in the Kingdom days. I mean, I really loved that whole era, the Joey Cora, Edgar Martinez, Dan Wilson, the big unit.
Yeah.
That was such an incredible time for sports here in Seattle. And I think looking at where sports are in Seattle now, it's just, I mean, we're just hitting this like incredible spot this year in particular with everything we have going on in the city. It's fantastic. But it reminds me of that vibe that was around in the early 90s. So it was pretty cool.
That was my question. My piggyback was how do you compare it to now? So you feel like that's coming back from back, you know what I mean? Because there's like that same
we had the Sonics, we had the Sonics, which I think changed things, but now we have the Kraken.
Yep.
And the Kraken's doing well.
Yeah, and the Sounders are huge. The Kraken are doing amazing. I mean, we're still in it. We're in the playoffs. I feel like the playoffs might go on forever now.
Listen.
But we've got one of the best WNBA teams in the world. It is absolutely fantastic. We've got the OL Reign here in Seattle, and I absolutely love them. If you haven't been to a Reign game at Lumen Field, you should go. It's pretty incredible. It's not, I mean, we have so many national team players on our team. It's incredible. But I have a feeling this is probably Megan Rapinoe's last year. And to be able to say that we have and she's just such an incredible player. So yeah, you should go.
Yeah. I had the opportunity to see Sue's last game. Of course, the Storm, let me rewind a little bit. To your point, the Seattle sports teams have been doing so well because even if you think about the Seahawks, who nobody thought would make it to the playoffs, the WNBA team made it to the playoffs. Now you have Kraken. The Mariners made it to the playoffs in the first time since I've been here. I've been here, 10 years now? Oh, it's been 10 years I've been here. Wow, like it's crazy.
A whole decade.
Right. But I have not had a chance to check out an OL Reign game, so I'll make sure I do that. But it was pretty cool to see how packed the playoff games were because everybody was like, we don't want this to be Sue's last game, but it could be. And, just seeing the city surround the Storm and the women's teams when they came earlier this year was a cool thing to see here in Seattle.
Yeah, the super regionals for NCAA. Yeah, it was incredible. To go into Climate Pledge Arena, which is a beautiful arena, and see it sold out for all those Storm games was incredible. And then the same kind of vibe of college athleticism is so fun. And so the super regionals, going into Climate Pledge and getting that collegiate vibe with a sellout crowd is really neat.
That's great.
That's the perfect segue into something else I want to talk about, which is pretty much what you're doing. You made a decision that you're going to put women's sports on TV. You wanted to do something to better it. You wanted to bring more people in and understand that everybody has a responsibility. What would you say that needs to be done to further women's sports, to get people to support more?
We need investment. Women athletes and women's sports deserve equal investment. And when that happens, anything's possible. And we've seen that happen in any time you put, let's just use the Reign as an example. So the Reign was, Memorial Stadium and then Starfire, and they were down at Cheney Stadium, which is a baseball stadium, minor league baseball stadium down in Tacoma. Which was capped at like 5,000, 5,500. So that was the max that could even get into the stadium. They moved to Lumen Field last year, which was their first year at Lumen Field, which is where the Seahawks and the Sounders play. And, they sold out the lower bowl for their last playoff game. So, that's 23,000 people. I think the biggest thing is we have to invest in women in order to give them that equitable starting point, right?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm doing. I'm investing in women's sports. If we can watch women athletes at equal percentages on the screen and watch women's sports, we're going to realize that it's just as or more fun to watch that than it is anything, men's sports, right? Which we're all so used to. And so it's that providing that accessibility and it's investing. And so I get asked this question a lot. What is it that we can all do to affect change and positive change? Spend money on women's sports.
Yeah.
Buy tickets. Become a season ticket holder. Request that game be put on TV when you go somewhere. And come to Rough Tumble Pub. Have your meeting here.
Yeah.
Book events. Have your kids' celebrations at the end of the school year here.
Yeah.
Because that's going to support this place, which allows me to stay in business so that I can continue to invest in women's sports and continue this cycle, right?
Absolutely.
So put your money where your mouth is, I think is a big one.
Yeah. I'm glad that you say that, because the biggest example, of course, happened with the NCAA women's teams in general, but it's been interesting watching the LSU players do their media round, and people are consistently asking them like, okay, so you can't wait to play in the WNBA, can you? And they're like, of course that's our goal, but right now, like, we're having so much fun in college. We're able to make money, and we're making more money here than we are in the WNBA, right?
Yep.
And it is, to your point, invest in the women's teams, invest in the players, and just give them the opportunity to show you that you're going to make your money back times 10, more than likely.
Yeah, I mean, the data is there. It substantiates that this is the fastest growing industry sector. And when you think about the fact that the athlete sponsorship industry is like a $78 billion business, and women athletes get less than 1%. Less than 1%
that is
of a 78 billion. That's crazy. So how are we going to make it affordable for a professional woman athlete to have a career if we don't start to change that? And that is changing. It has really started to change even in the last year. Is much better than it was another 1 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of us in the women's sports industry that are saying, like, get on the train now. The train is already starting to leave the terminal, if you will.
Yeah.
It is such a fun and exciting space to be in. And I think one of the really exciting parts of it is we get to make the women's sports industry what we want. We don't have to do it the same way that it's been done in men's sports. And so what does that look like, right?
Yep.
And that's really not just empowering, but super exciting.
It is. I was so excited when they started opening up all these NIL deals. It should have been done so long ago. That's changed the game
long ago.
A lot.
It really has. It really has.
Yeah,
it's an interesting space. It's I think there's a lot going on there. I would say that overall it's fantastic, and particularly for women.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. You want to play a game, Toya?
Yes, but before we play a game, I wanted to ask you about your latest venture, which is Equal Parts Community Public House, and talk about that passion and where it came from.
Yes.
The Rough and Tumble, the pub.
Yes.
The space here is, I wanted to create a space that everybody could come. I always say this. I'm like, I wanted to make a space that's like your third place. It's not your home, it's not your work or what you do with your family, but it's that place that you want to go to where you're seen, you're heard, and you have these great experiences. I think so many people have great experiences over food. There's always this breaking of the bread, there's sharing of a meal, right? But that often happens in sports, right? So you go to a game, whether it's like a game in a stadium or you're watching an away game or a playoff game with other people, and there's this electricity that happens. There's this emotional response. And you add that with food and cold beer or a glass of wine or whatever your drink is. And it creates a vibe that can't really be replicated anywhere else. And so I wanted to create that space, but I wanted to do it a little differently.
Yeah.
So it's all ages. It's not, there's a little area around the bar which kids can't be at, but we have 2 pool tables. I think we're the only place in the city here that kids can play pool, which is very unusual. And it's just, and we have brunch and we have really great food. And so it's a space to enjoy one another as well as experience sports together. I just like to say we're playing all the sports, We're playing both men's and women's sports. So it's a really special environment. It's a beautiful space where it's very, you can kind of see behind me here. There's a lot of light.
It's so pretty.
No, I was just curious at how you came up with that name and why that was so important to you, because obviously I understand the women's part, but the overall vibe, like when you're talking about, equal parts, you're talking about it's not just for women, it's for kids, it's for family, there's all of these parts of it that you've created to make everyone feel welcome.
Yeah, I mean, I really think that as I look around my own life, I'm very lucky. I have great friends and great family, and we treat each other with a lot of respect and equality. But you go into spaces that are out there in the commercial world, and they're not set up that way.
Right.
And I want my kids, and I want other people's kids to grow up seeing that equality is where it's at. Like what they are reflecting and seeing at home should be the way it is elsewhere.
Yeah.
And we're not doing that for them, and we're not doing it for ourselves. And so I think, it's pretty sweet when you get little girls in here and little boys too. But it's really special when you see little girls and they're like staring up at the TV. And like, we had a little girl the other day and she looked at her mom and she's like, I didn't know girls could play basketball. I just thought it was boys. And I was like,
and that's why
that happens. That's why I'm doing this. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
No,
it's pretty special.
Awesome. Yeah. I don't know how I missed it that you had brunch, which is my favorite time of day. We'll definitely be coming to check it out.
You got to come in.
But
it's really good.
When I came in to drop off her mic and headphones and stuff, I'm like, it is so nice in here, and it's the nice windows. You get all the natural light. Like, it is welcoming. So I can't wait to come and check it out and bring my boys.
Yeah,
please do.
Absolutely.
And we also lead. We started kind of a fantasy football group for women because women don't know how to play, or they're awesome. Curious and they don't want to ask their husbands or significant others because she's like, I don't want to get embarrassed, or I don't want them to say I don't know. So we started this, and so it'd be fun, Tia. Maybe we could get a group of women because we have a lot of women from Seattle that play with us. So maybe we'll figure something out.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking when I said, I was like, oh, we got to hold a fantasy game there. I'm like, wait, we need to have her on. Like, what are we doing? Yes, that'll be cool.
Yeah, the Super Bowl was pretty fun here, I will say. We turned down the lights when Rihanna came on.
Did you?
Yeah, we totally did. It was awesome.
I love it.
Everybody got out their phones and turned on the flashlight and we're waving. Yeah, it was awesome. We have, that's the thing too, is going to a sports bar environment as a woman can be at times a little...
intimidating,
yeah, because sometimes you're the only woman there, or you're just one, and gosh forbid if you cheer at the wrong moment or cheer for the wrong team because you haven't watched this sport before and don't know what the uniforms look like, or you get made fun of. I certainly have been, and that doesn't happen here. And I mean. The Seahawks season was really fun. We had these huge groups of women would come in and they'd be like, oh, I can sit and watch the game and my shoulders are lower. I'm just relaxed, having fun. And they're drinking like pitchers of mimosas. And they brought this group of friends and they're watching the game. And it was just like, yes, this is why we're doing this.
That's awesome.
So it's not just women's sports on the screens. It's creating a space where we can all enjoy sports equally as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Have you always been a Seahawks fan? Like, has that been something that you were around, or do you feel like it's grown on you later in life?
My parents were not sports fans. I mean, it just wasn't, we didn't grow up watching sports so much. So I didn't have that ingrained in me as a kid, which a lot of people do. So it was something that I started to enjoy, I would say, in my teens and 20s more. Yeah.
That's awesome, because then you chose to do it.
I love it. I chose to do it, right? Yes. But it was interesting because I had to teach myself and I had to ask questions. I loved, I went to Garfield High School.
Yeah.
Here in Seattle, and we had a great football team when I was there. So going to Friday night games and stuff was a lot of fun. But you have to ask those questions of somebody, and 9 times out of 10, you're asking a guy. And, in my experience, my own personal experience, and I think this is similar for a lot of women, you shy away from asking questions when you're made fun of.
Yes.
But football is primarily in our society a men's sport. And so you've got a lot of guys playing football. They're going to be the ones who probably know the sport a little bit better, right?
Yeah.
Obviously generalizations, but so I ended up having to kind of teach myself a little bit. I'm no pro, that's for sure, but I do love watching the game. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's we went to, it was not a playoff game, but it was a cracking game 2 weeks ago. So like the beginning of August, April, it was like a game they needed to win to make it to the playoffs kind of thing, whatever. And we took our boys. And what was cool was, number one, I asked all the questions because I know nothing about hockey, but I enjoyed it. Like I enjoy the environment, right? But sitting right behind us was this huge women's team.
Yeah.
They were all in high school, but what the team is called, or I can't remember. And my youngest was like, Mom, girls play hockey too. I'm like, yes. Didn't you just hear they have national championships? So or champions or whatever. So he was like, oh, I didn't realize that either. So I enjoy it.
Yeah, we have I think the Kraken as an organization are doing such a good job on creating welcoming spaces for everyone to enjoy hockey. They're really intentional about it. And women's hockey here in Seattle, I don't think we're too far away from having a professional team.
I could see that.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yes.
Okay, so are you ready to play the 2-minute drill?
Yes.
All
Let's
Okay.
do it.
So the 2-minute drill, we're just going to ask you a few questions. It's going to be this, that, or the other. So it'll be kind of either or you just tell us whatever pops in your head. 2-minute drill, and it's real easy breezy. Won't be anything too hard. So we'll get this party started. You ready, Tia?
Yes.
Okay.
You can go.
First question. Favorite drink on your menu?
The buzzer beater.
And what's
really good?
What's in the buzzer?
Pomegranate is it also has an orchid on top. It's really pretty.
Ooh.
It's definitely our number one seller. It's kind of a tart drink. It's really good. But my personal favorite to pour off the tap is actually the hard kombucha. And I don't like kombucha, so why I like that, I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to say, because kombucha is like one of those tastes that you have to get used to.
Well, a lot of them are vinegar based, and this one isn't.
There you go.
It's not vinegary, and it tastes really good. I like to say it's good for my body because it's healthy.
So if you guys
want to be healthy,
you
know what to order.
Kombucha. Yeah.
Complete sidebar. But do you know sometimes when you go buy kombucha, you have to get carded?
Yeah, because no matter what, it has a tiny bit of alcohol in it.
I had no idea. So I ordered it on Instacart, and the guy asked for my ID. It's like,
that must be new, because you didn't used to have to do that. So kids must have been taking advantage of it or something.
I don't know that it's that worth it.
Right. I'm like, okay. Okay, back to the game. Seattle Storm or OL Reign? I think you answered.
Rain.
Ooh, she said that quick too.
Yeah. I love them both. But I just really love the game of soccer. I think it's an incredible sport, and I think it's a super romantic sport. And I love that it really is the international sport. It's played in every country. And I think that in and of itself is a language. You can go anywhere and not speak the language, not understand the customs, but you can play soccer.
That's so good. Okay, completely automated home or a self-driving car?
Automated home.
It's a little safer, right? It's a little safer.
I mean, it would be so nice to go from room to room and have the lights turn on and the shades open and close. And I could just like sit on the sofa and say, turn the TV on.
Yeah. Okay. What do most people get wrong about your business?
That it is all just women's sports. That's the most common thing. Or that it's, a pub just for women.
Got it. Yeah, that's what I thought.
Which it isn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's common, but it's been an education process, and I think that it's getting better.
That's good.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, next question. Tell me your most memorable sports moment.
For as an athlete or watching?
Either.
Whatever comes to mind for you. I know something came to the mind.
My most memorable one for me as an athlete. I was rowing in a single.
Okay.
So usually, there's a lot of different ways to row, different formats, and the one that I think comes to mind for most people is all 8 rowers, swinging together in a long boat. And I was I think maybe 16 or 17, and it was my first single race. And you're out there, it's just you.
Yeah.
And you're reliant completely on yourself and your own mental state and your own strength and your own balance. Yeah. And I won that race. And so that one is a standout just for me personally. It's been a long time and it still is a standout. And then as far as an experience watching, the Women's World Cup last time around was really cool. I just happened to be in Europe at the time.
What?
And we were watching. Yeah, I didn't get to go to but we were in Croatia.
Okay.
And we were in England, Croatia, and Italy, and so it was really neat to just be able to wander around and watch these games in a foreign environment. It was really neat.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. Okay, what was the last gift you gave someone?
A good friend of mine, I bought her a pair of cozy socks because she wasn't feeling good.
Oh, nice. I love that.
I know she was having a hard time, so I sent her some really cozy socks from UGG, and they were pink, and they were soft and cozy, and just now I want them.
Yes, that's that feel good, right? Like you can have a down moment, but like to your point, cozy socks, a blanket that makes everything better.
Yeah,
we're just big kids.
Cozy.
That's all.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so winter sports or summer sports?
That is the question, right? I mean, winter comes around, you're like, I love winter sports, and summer comes around, you're like, I love summer sports. I think summer sports in general are a little bit more engaging to watch over the long term because you got field and stuff. That's me, but I do love downhill skiing and stuff. So it's personal.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You said summer. Too late. Okay.
I know it's summer. Okay, summer. I'm going with summer.
Okay. Favorite meal on your menu?
The bird.
And what's the bird?
The bird is a fried chicken sandwich and it's so good. We've got this amazing brioche bread and this fried chicken, and it's got bread and butter pickles and this slaw. Oh, it's so good. It's our number 1 seller.
Tia, we coming. We're bringing the crew.
Yeah.
Look, Jen, we're going to take over, okay?
Yeah. It may or may not have been inspired by a certain famous female athlete.
The bird. Love. Got it.
Yeah, if you take a look at our menu, you'll see there's a lot. Most things on there are named after different amazing women athletes. It's pretty fun.
That's awesome. Love it. Absolutely.
Like the Wom broccolini. It's a broccolini. It's grilled broccolini with stuff, but it's Wom broccolini, like Abby Wambach.
Oh, look at you. Wordplay.
I love it. Absolutely.
Love that.
Look,
okay, Jen. So we're coming. We're pulling up. We're bringing our fantasy football crew.
Good. Let's do it.
But before we do that, we want to know if people want to get a hold of you, where do they find you? How do they get in contact with you?
Follow us on social media. Instagram, Facebook is at Rough and Tumble Pub, and Twitter's Rough Tumble Pub, I think. You can go onto our website too, which is roughandtumblepub.com.
Awesome.
Yes. And Rough and Tumble is located in Ballard.
Yep, in the heart of Ballard. Right on that cute little strip where the farmer's market is.
Yes. Okay. So I went to one day, my husband and my oldest had traveled for sports. So myself and my youngest, we're going to venture out, try some new places because we live in Bellevue and you get tired of it. So we went to Ballard, went to the farmer's market, which is incredible. I feel like it's probably really one of the better farmer's markets around. But we had brunch at the restaurant that was there at Rough and Tumble prior to the opening. Yeah, I can remember the name. And I walked in, I'm like, this place, I know I parked right here. This is the place. It had to be the place.
Yeah.
It is a great location for a bar.
It is. So, it's really fun. It's right in the middle. I mean, it's a really special. I'm looking around. It's a really special little neighborhood, and it is. Like I remember 15, 20 years ago, it hadn't really turned over yet, so it was still being quote unquote gentrified, Because it's a working, harbor. The water's right there. You've got the locks. There's fisherman terminal. And I just thought, gosh, this is going to be an incredible place. And I remember thinking back then, gosh, I'd love to own a business in this little strip.
Wow.
And so,
yeah.
You spoke it into
it's
existence.
cool that
you manifested all those great things.
I
Absolutely.
did.
It's so
Took a little
awesome.
while, but hey.
Yeah. Well, thanks for creating a space for women to enjoy sports comfortably. Like, it really was a great idea.
Thank you.
And I'm glad you listened to your gut, like you said.
And we're pulling up.
I think, yeah, you're pulling up. I think it's just, one of the best things that has happened through all of this is how much the women's sports community in Seattle has embraced it. The rain and the storm, players and owners and managers and front office marketing it's been really, really special, and I hope it continues to stay that way. And I can't wait to host all of you.
Yes, it's going to be fun. We'll get in contact. We'll work it all out as it gets closer to the season. We'll come have some fun with you. So thank you so much for sharing your time with us, for inspiring other women, for doing, there's so many women out there that have dreams and ideas, and it's people like you that come on and share all that you've created and done that inspires someone else. So we appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for everything that the two of you do as well.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Oh my gosh. I loved our conversation with Jen.
Yes. I'm so I'm excited I came across that business in general, because I just was looking for new stuff to do in Seattle, and that's the perfect place, because to our point, I like watching sporting events, men's, women, whatever, but I don't like to be in a space where I feel like, one, I'm going to be uncomfortable, two, somebody going to look at me crazy for asking a silly question, because my ass don't know nothing about the Kraken, I don't know nothing about soccer, but I like watching them, and I know, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's going to be a fun space.
Yeah. I agree.
Well, it is a fun space, I'm sure.
It really is. And I like the idea that she talks about equality, what that really means. It's not women only, but she promotes women on TV. She still allows everyone to come, whether you're family, whether it's male, female. Like, she is like welcoming. And to your point, Tia, a lot of pubs are not.
Yes.
So shout out to Jen for thinking it through and doing something that hasn't been done before in Seattle.
I know that's right.
All right, y'all. Well, that's our show. For the latest on Inside Lines Podcast, make sure to follow us on both Inside Lines Podcasts on Instagram and Facebook.
And be sure to check out our website at insidelinespodcast.com. And don't forget, if you have suggestions for guests or people you want to see, things you want us to cover, or if you got questions for me or Atoya, leave us a voicemail, speakpipe.com/insidelines.
All right, y'all. Until then, leave it all out on the field. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.